Hello and welcome to our 2017 TechCon preview JavaBreak. Let's look at our quick agenda. We're going to talk about the conference details, post-conference training, what's in it for Pro5 users, and then we'll have a sneak peek at a couple of really cool demos. And for attending today, we have a special price discount for you. And then we'll take your questions after we summarize the session. So, conference details starts midday Monday, allows you to fly in from wherever it is you are in the country, to midday Wednesday, allowing you to fly back on Wednesday afternoon, keeping you out of the office for the least amount of time possible. There'll be post-conference training on Thursday and Friday. The conference is taking place in New Mexico immediately after the Balloon Fiesta, so come in early for the Balloon Fiesta and stay on for the conference. We'll be at the Marriott Uptown again, as we have been in the past. The theme for this year's conference is Power of the Past, Force for the Future. We'll be reviewing the power of the BBX generations and the new development tool and DBMS capabilities that Java and now JavaScript bring to the BBX generations ecosystem for both BBJ and Pro5 application developers. The technical sessions kick off on Monday afternoon with BBJ, the conference game that is going to encourage networking amongst you and your peer group. We'll show you the underpinnings to the game, how we've delivered it in BUI, and what technologies we've used. We'll then delve into security secrets. We'll look at a review of all the security functionality, including brand new functionality we've only recently added to the interpreter, and how that can improve and secure your business application. And then we'll look at Pro5 gets all the goodies. In 2015, we announced a particularly significant feature with Pro5 to allow Pro5 to work seamlessly and interoperably with BBJ's database without any code changes and without ever needing to convert your data. Of course, that session will also be useful for those running BBJ because it'll be a reminder of all the functionality you already have at your fingertips. On Tuesday, we'll switch into technology in action and see some of Basis's technology in use across the board, all the various components, the utilities, the building blocks. And then we'll switch into web development, talking about the various capabilities and possibilities of how to develop web applications and how to develop for the browser. And then we'll switch into the database, talk about some of the new features we've added, as well as the long-standing capabilities we've improved over the years. And then we'll switch to system administration, a really important part of any ecosystem of your application, how we've made things easier and simpler for you to manage. Then we'll switch to application building blocks, having a look at some of the broader use cases and how we've actually put those into action. And then finally, we'll finish off talking about the Eclipse IDE and some of the best development practices that we believe you should be following. On Wednesday, we'll talk about the improvements to the language. In particular, we'll talk about the new capability of interacting with JavaScript. We'll have a look at deployment choices. We have many more deployment choices that you had with Pro5 and Visual Pro5. We've combined those and added some more. And then we'll talk about basis services, including professional services and all the other functionality that augments our product offering. And then we'll close off the conference. But that's not all. There are many networking opportunities. Many of our customers tell us this is the primary reason that they attend the TechCon, the ability to interface with their peers, with other users of the product, other developers of the product, as well as the Basis engineers that actually bring to life the various components of Basis technology. So BBJ playing the game in and of itself is an opportunity to network with your peer group. And the end user forum is always a very well attended session where end users will share some of the use cases that they've put Basis technology to. Our ever popular subject matter expert zones, where our subject matter experts from within the Basis technology group are going to share their knowledge. We'll have the Basis software architect who wasn't able to join us at the TechCon in 2015. He'll be present along with engineers behind the Eclipse IDE, the database management system, the special Eclipse plugins that we've added to the Eclipse IDE, as well as the Basis component set that is useful in developing your own applications. More subject matter experts in system administration, web apps, mobile, CSS, web development, language interpreter, projects, services, the add-on store, add-on software in Barista, and of course basis utilities and deployment choices. Lots of scope and opportunity for networking, for talking directly to the developers of the product that you use. Of course, the conference doesn't end on Wednesday. Thursday, we have post-conference training, and we'll hold the Eclipse ID, day 1 of 2 days, and Jasper reports, and the browser user interface. And then on Friday, we have 4 sessions, 4 different training classes, the Eclipse ID, day 2 of 2, the database management system, the digital dashboard, and the Barista RAD tool. The morning on the Barista training class will cover the basics, and the afternoon will move into some advanced topics. This conference is particularly useful for all BBX generation users. The technical conference is for new stuff, right? What about your Pro 5 or Visual Pro 5 application? How can they benefit from the new stuff? Well, in 2015, we delivered the final bridge from Pro 5 to BBJ, one that allows you to stay with your Pro 5 interpreters if you so wish, but give you access to switch into the basis database management system with no risk, without any code changes, and without the need to even convert your data. All handled via configuration, and most importantly, it's much more efficient than it ever was before, leveraging the memory map file protocol in lieu of the network-based TCP/IP protocol. And you can employ Xcore for all the new BBJ functionality that you've always wanted to reach out and utilize. TC17 is for BBJ, Pro 5, and Visual Pro 5 developers. Let's now look at a sneak peek of some of the sessions that we'll be covering. Pro 5 gets all the goodies. We'll talk about the functionality that we released in 2015 and talk you through how easy it is to take advantage of all that we offer within the BBX generations. We now have 16 years of new feature and function of the database management system unlocked for Pro 5 users without any code changes. How, you might ask, are we able to do that? We now link Pro 5 interpreters transparently to the BBJ database management system via some configuration changes in the config.bbx. We can utilize several BBJ database specific features in and alongside your current applications. What, you may ask, are these features that you will receive? Well, there are a plethora of them. Full text search engine, Google-like searching, all happens at the database level. No code changes to implement that. Database replication to give you a secure copy of your database in near real time. Trigger functionality, asynchronous triggers, change audit login, online copy jobs, Xkeyed and Vkeyed, and ESQL file types. Some of those you'd have to use Pro 5's Xcore capability to reach out and leverage. SQL engine access to your Pro 5 files via any SQL compliant third-party tool, as well as being able to reach out to any other SQL compliant database that's a non-basis database, again utilizing Xcore. We have the built-in Jetty web server, so there's a built-in web server right there to serve up those browser-based web applications, including the built-in digital dashboard that ships with BBJ. Jaspersoft, what you see is what you get report writer tool, BBX task scheduling, and you can create and consume web services, all from within Pro 5 interpreters via the Xcore verb. Probably one of the biggest concerns everybody might have is performance. How does the BBJ database management system perform when compared with native Pro 5 record locking? Well, the good news is that while writes might be a little slower, concurrent reads are significantly faster. This graph shows us an example. On the y-axis, we see the reads per second, starting out at 150,000 up to 600,000 reads per second. As the concurrent interpreters that perform these reads grow, so the performance will drop in the Pro 5, the blue line session. Now, there is a setting in Pro 5, multi-reader, that's the red line. However, in production systems, it's been our experience that that performance can cause starvation, write starvation to the system, and therefore is not used. BBJ does not suffer from this downfall, and the green line represents the nice scalable performance of the BBJ concurrent read performance. And as a reminder, most often applications have at least a 10-to-1 ratio between reads and writes, 10 more reads than writes. So overall, your performance, especially in interactive applications, should be unchanged. Now let's get into the meat of today's session. About a year ago, this blog post came out that contended that browsers, not apps, are the future of mobile. So how does Basis play into this world? We've got some great, exciting news for you with the BBJ language enhancements. In the past, we've had BBJ and Java, BBJ being the superset of Pro 5 and Visual Pro 5, which supports execution and interaction with Java, allowing us access to a whole world of previously unavailable functionality at our fingertips. We can now leverage extensive Java libraries and/or projects, most of them open source. Some examples: Jasper Report's WYSIWYG Report Designer, which we provided a front-end print preview preview screen that functions in both the browser as well as on the desktop, BB Jasper. Email and fax libraries. Fax libraries are commercial but very inexpensive. BB Jasper leverages that, and the dashboard leverages that. POI Office Document Interface Library, poorly obfuscated interface. That's access to Excel, Word, those kinds of Office document formats. Both BB Jasper and the dashboard leverage those interactions. Lucene, the Google-like search from the Apache open source project. The Basis Database Management System, the Enterprise Manager, both leverage this functionality without your application having to be aware of it. And the Google Web Toolkit, recently open sourced by Google and leveraged by Google to be able to deliver some of their applications to the web. Well, we've used that as the foundation for our BUI, our browser user interface. And JFreeCharge, widely used within the digital dashboard utility. And there are many others that many of our clients are using or we have embedded within the product set. So with that rich history of Java interaction, now comes the ability to interact with JavaScript. Now JavaScript, as a reminder, is not Java. It's a scripting language for the browser. And alongside HTML and CSS, JavaScript is one of the 3 core technologies of World Wide Web content production. It's used to make web pages interactive and provide online programs, including video games. The majority of websites employ it, and all modern web browsers support it, most importantly, without the need for any plugins by means of the built-in JavaScript engine that ships inside of every modern web browser. Now, what have we done in the past with JavaScript? Well, previous versions of BBJ have allowed you to have a BBJ HTML view control. That HTML view control, with the introduction of JavaFX, has given us access to a fully fledged web content. We can get that from a published URL that consists of HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, all running inside of a BBJ control on your desktop. We can set HTML text via set text, and BBJ can also set the URL or the text of the control. But we delivered limited interaction with the content. We had the BBJ hyperlink activate event. And now, drum roll please, we have a more fully integrated solution between BBJ and JavaScript. Two-way bidirectional communication. BBJ and JavaScript can communicate with one another. BBJ can inject and execute JavaScript code. And JavaScript can communicate with BBJ via a callback event. We can now leverage a whole host of JavaScript plugin libraries within BBJ. Many of these are open source, much like their Java counterparts, and they deliver tried and tested functional application building blocks. They execute locally inside the browser, and so one of the other huge benefits is there's no latency, there's no communication back to the server, and they can be extremely responsive. Here's an example of one that we'll be showing off at our TechCon, a calendar control. JavaScript calendar control, the jQuery full calendar integration, will show you how we can integrate and communicate via a BBJ program. We'll also be showing you a pretty cool feature whereby in our timesheet demo we'll introduce using a new JavaScript control to make our application more user-friendly. So if there is a control that you want to utilize and maybe we haven't delivered it natively, you can reach out and use a JavaScript control. Let me hand you over to Nick Decker, our engineering supervisor, who's put together a great demo for you of this in action. Take it away, Nick.
BBJ supports dozens of different controls, but occasionally you may have a need for a very specific type of control that's outside of the realm of common controls. In some cases, you can build that control by combining 2 or more BBJ controls. or even by modifying the look and behavior of a standard control using some clever CSS. In this video, we're looking for a very specialized control that's specific to time entry. Sure, we could use a masked BBJ input end control, limiting the input characters to numbers and formatting the data in hours and minutes, but instead we're shooting for a very graphical and intuitive way of entering starting and ending times. Since we want something that's easy to use and we don't mind coloring outside the lines every once in a while, why not use an analog clock for time input? Since we don't want to invest a lot of time into this, let's set some goals. 1. We shouldn't have to write a lot of code. 2. We shouldn't have to use the keyboard for time entry. 3. We should look into using a freely available library. 4. The library should work across all major browsers. 5. The library should work in a touch environment. And 6. The library should be modifiable in case it doesn't fit our expectations out of the box. We start by exercising our Googling skills and end up with a lot of potential candidates. Apparently, a lot of other programmers had the same need, and there are a variety of libraries that solve the input problem in very interesting ways. This one looks like a clock, but the 24-hour input and the bland colors aren't quite what we had in mind. So let's see how flexible it is. The options indicate that we can set the default time, set a 12 or 24-hour mode, etc. It also works in all browsers down to IE9, and touchscreens aren't a problem. The demo looks great. We can select the hours by moving a hand around the clock, and it allows for hours and minutes inputs, and we can toggle between the two. After downloading and exploding the zip, the next step is to integrate it into our timesheet app. Step 1. Set the HTML text for the BBJ HTML view control that we're using to keep track of when the employee checked in. The clock picker documentation wasn't very helpful here. Sometimes that's the price of free software. But after looking at their demo source, we need to include an HTML div with a unique ID and an input tag. We also included an onChange event where we pass the input value back to our BBJ program via the basis dispatch native event mechanism. Step 2. Inject the JavaScript library contents into the HTML view. Step 3. Set a callback so that our BBJ program can react to a JavaScript event in the input control. Step 4. Execute a line of JavaScript to instantiate the clock picker using the unique ID from Step 1. And finally, Step 5. Have our callback code display the selected time in a standard BBJ message box to see if it works. Let's take it for a test spin. Clicking in the HTML view control causes the clock picker to display, so it looks like we didn't make any programming mistakes. We can select the hour by moving the clock hand, and letting go of the mouse button changes the display to minutes. We can toggle AM and PM if desired, select the minutes, and then click OK. The clock picker library then fills the input with the selected time, which triggers our onChange event and sends the time to BBJ. Our callback routine fires and displays the selected time in a BBJ message box. Through the magic of video, all of our code worked the first time, and we're now free to experiment. To improve our app, we'll add in some custom CSS, both for the BBJ side and for the clock picker side. Additionally, we'll make a couple of small improvements to the clock picker JavaScript code. The clock is huge, so we'll make it scalable, and our timesheet app will use a smaller version to streamline the input. The time display at the top of the picker doesn't contain the AM/PM designation unless you click on the AM/PM buttons, so we'll add that and make it clickable to toggle the time periods. After our changes are in place, we're ready to run the updated timesheet app. Our custom CSS has given our app's user interface an overhaul. We've darkened the HTML body's background color and changed the application's title bar. Our fonts are larger, bolder, and yet they don't take up much more space since we're using a condensed font family. The radio buttons, checkbox, and buttons at the bottom of the form have also undergone massive changes. Clicking in the time in field brings up the clock picker as expected, but this time we dimmed everything behind the pop-up via CSS. The time at the top of the picker now displays the AM/PM designation automatically, and clicking on this field toggles a value, and the AM/PM buttons toward the bottom of the picker change to reflect the chosen period. After selecting the hour, we can select the minute either by dragging and dropping the clock hand, or by simply clicking anywhere on the clock face. Our timeout field is similar, so after selecting a time in and a time out, our program computes the total work time and displays it in a read-only field. Our timesheet app works great, and the addition of the clock picker adds some character and makes the app fun to use. We were rather gutsy, delving into the world of HTML and JavaScript, but our experiment paid off considerably.
Thanks, Nick. I'm sure that's whet everybody's appetite to come and attend TechCon and learn and see more. Well, what about widgets? We have the HTML view widget. And because the HTML view widget is really an HTML view control, we can similarly interact with that control and utilize some JavaScript libraries. So we'll be showing you an interactive dashboard widget using JavaScript to provide a variety of different capabilities. More about that at the conference. What about modifying existing BBJ controls, augmenting them, making them do different things? I'm going to hand off in a minute to Nick to tell you about how we can use JavaScript and CSS to make your app more user-friendly and efficient. We'll utilize the BBJ TechCon game and show you how we can modify an existing BBJ control. Take it away, Nick.
When our BBJ application is running in Buoy, the entire app is contained within the browser. And since BBJ can now execute JavaScript and dynamically manipulate the document object model, or the DOM for short, that means our program can go beyond Business Basic and affect any part of the application. Let's take a look at what this kind of manipulation looks like in practice. We'll start by loading up our BBJ game for the BASIS Technical Conference. This particular game board deals with general trivia, and we'll attempt to answer the first question. The answer selection screen consists of a BBJ list box loaded with several possible answers. Somewhere in that list lies the correct answer. Wouldn't it be nice if we could easily search through that list? Above the list box is a search box that allows us to do just that, and it does so by executing JavaScript. Whenever we type a character into the search box, our program executes JavaScript that compares our search text to the list entries. If the two strings don't match, we can quote-unquote hide the list item by shrinking its height down to 0. And since animation is easy, we can add some flair by animating the hiding and showing of list items. Additionally, since we wrote the matching routine ourselves, we can make the search look for exact matches or for substrings that exist anywhere in the item text. Clearing out the search box reinstates all of the list box items, and we're left with our original list of possible answers.
Thanks, Nick. Another session at TechCon is going to cover how we can take advantage of CSS. Within our workbench menu, we're going to use CSS to perform all sorts of animations and make it far more intuitive to the user as to which item that they're working with. So, Buoy, BBJ, and JavaScript. Imagine the possibilities. Regardless of the OS or the brand of the supercomputer you have in your pocket, you will be able to run an app and view its content with zero friction. As for developers, you can write an app once and stream it to all devices and browsers. That was the rest of that blog that I referred to earlier, written by Donnie Reynolds, now with Google. And if you want to hear more about his various blog thoughts, have a look at his website. But I believe that we at BASIS are really taking this ball forward. With our new integration to JavaScript, we're really making people think a little bit more clearly about what the role is of web apps in the future of their business environments. So now that you've attended this preview of TechCon, we have some special pricing for you. The conference discounts all expired at the end of August. However, if you now register for the conference, for partners and resellers, go to links.basis.com/TC17 resell partner, or if you're an end user, go to links.basis.com/TC17 end, and under dietary special needs section, enter the code JavaBreak, and we'll give you $100 off your registration. Reserve your room at the conference venue, Albuquerque Marriott. Go to this link, links.basis.com/TC Hotel. If you have forgotten all of these links, go ahead and get them from our homepage, www.basis.com. So that pretty much wraps up this quick sneak peek. We believe you can't afford not to be there. We look forward to seeing you next month at the Basis TechCon 2017 in Albuquerque, New Mexico, October 16th through 18th, with training on 19th and 20th. Now let's take your questions.